Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. So right now, this is an Eve update. Now, obviously you've seen this logo before. This is my channel logo. It's always all around. I know that it doesn't look this amazing on the regular basis, but for now it will look like this. You're hearing a little bit of a tick in the back. That's because my Discord is active. It's normally not active during recordings because I'm playing games on the PC. But this is a little bit more comfy than trying to do it on the phone. So I'm going to go for whatever I can right now in explaining what's going to be going down. So I will be returning to Eve for a very large series. You're just going to get this massive start of content, and it will last about 3, maybe 4 months, considering how many ships there are. Every single ship will be built. I'll make a video on it. I'll put up the full upload list and I'll start uploading them one at a time. And I'm going to edit them. I'm going to put in all the pictures. I'm going to put in thumbnails, which is something you don't get from me all the time. And once all of that is done, it's going to be uploaded. And I intend to start that particular series as a basic farewell to Eve. That's because Eve has taken a little bit more of a sharp turn downwards. The return of players for Nihilist Space is something that definitely went in the right direction for the game. A lot of people did enjoy this return of content, but on the downside of it, it also had a mass exodus. A lot of people can't stand the fact that LowSec has become too dangerous, and with that increased danger, there's started an increased fallout on players. The fact that the ISK price dropped as drastically as it dropped, the fact that um, the missions have dropped in price, the fact that a lot of things have started to climb down rapidly, all of this means the game is in danger because markets stay steady when things are safe, and when they fall too rapidly, it means there isn't enough demand. And when there isn't enough demand, that means either the markets were overcompeted, or somebody flooded the markets with items, or the market was flooded with items of people who were selling and they had to reduce their prices to make up their losses. And that is a bad sign. Now, overall, through the game of Eve, they've made a lot of big mistakes. And I don't think the game is permanently dead, to be honest. There is a chance it will revive in a year or two when NetEase wakes up and they figure out they wasted too much of money into this endeavor and they end up giving it a little bit of a boost on more PvP, more PvE content, separating the ability for you to fight, ensuring there's no ganking, basically making the game a little bit more secure, giving two different play styles and an absolute advantage to each style. So you'll be able to do your missions again some way. Maybe it's a separate sector of space. It takes you out. It's a virtualization or teleportation or a special nihilist gate for you to another universe altogether to complete the mission. Whatever they do at that point, it will be whatever is needed for the game. And they'll find a way to make sure that the communities gather up again. And at that point, the game may reach its former glory once more, a million, maybe 2 million players. But it requires a massive amount of work from the devs. And as we have seen from the devs, they aren't really willing to do it. Currently, I have to be a little bit honest about it. I understand where they're coming from. What's their whole perspective? When they had 2 million people on the server, they needed more support, more work, more people working on the code to secure the game. And it cost them a lot. But when there were so many people, the spend in the game was very low. People were buying plaques, but it wasn't enough to make up for how quick it went off on the market. If it went on, it instantly sold. There wasn't that overwhelming balance of power between Plex and market buy, and that really hurt a lot of players. And certain items have gone crazy expensive in the game, and all of this pushed the game to levels of bad luck that weren't needed. And the reduction of missions and the increased difficulty of items and all of these things were actually made to push purchases within the game. It's meant to ensure that they cover their bottom line. And although it had a negative effect on player concentrations, they didn't really mind it because it meant that the profits were being more well balanced to their cost effective numbers in the servers. Now, Nihilist Space and the fact that they released it at this point, because if you're thinking about it, this was a year 2 release. If they were really aiming to have this game on a strong release path, we would have reached T10, right? T10 ships, the faction battleships would have only been available now at this high point in the game. And following this would come in year two's content, where we would end up with um, Nihilist Space for the start in the first 3 months. Then the next 3 months would have been Dreadnoughts, which is coming out in year two as the start of year two, which says that they're still a little bit close to where they should be. Then following that would have been something crazier, something bigger, maybe Titans or the Empire collision between what was it called? Forgetting the name of the Eden government. Well, anyway, a fight between Empire Space and their enemy. We would have gotten the other factions being thrown in at this point. We would have gotten the Sisters of Eve giving us ships to help boost up whichever side we wanted to fight with because they support vessels. We would have been introduced to the Zhang Yen, whatever the name is. I'm not 100% sure on my pronunciation of it. So yeah, that would have been added to the game, and we would have gotten those two factions at that point. And then following that, the apex of war, when things really push to the maximum, hitting close to the end of the year, would have been the super OP, massive structured ships that we were waiting for in the form of what is the name of that division? I'm forgetting the name of those ships. The Balagast and the Horus and all of those remaining ships, they would have come out at that point. Now, the reason for their release being that late is only one purpose. Because at that point, Eve would have been ready to go to the next step. And the next step in the Eve evolution would have been to go crazy with the fights. Obviously, the Dreads have to be added to the faction class of ships. If they add it into the faction ships, not the faction class of ships, sorry, the factions themselves, as in Caldari, Amar, you need the Dreads to be for those factions, the capital vessels basically, and then you need the next class of ships to come into your faction ships, so Titans possibly. And that would have been the end of year two, bringing us up to a really chaotic period because we know what Titans are. Titans are these massive ships that have unbelievable amounts of health. They have a pilot and they have docks, and they're basically this massive combat station that moves from place to place. It can't enter into Empire space, but it is a nullsec roaming murder trap. You can take out just about anything, and you would start putting up your security on your gates. You'd start ensuring that you have proper paths through. You get it. It's going to be a massive amount of work put in to get everything 100%. Now, with all of this said, that is just the start of where things go. And moving forward to the next step in this entire endeavor, moving to the next big push when it comes to what would have happened in year three, well, that is up to whatever new things they could introduce. Because we can't just follow EVE Online for the full duration of 10 years. We can't copy EVE Online's content 100% all the time. So they would have to introduce new items and new things. And in between, in those 3 months, they'd have to introduce events, ways for people to play together, reasons for people to play together, because when communities get strong, you keep a good player base. And when people can't keep with that player base of fans or friends, the player base of friends, they will spend money to get back to that point. And for a friend, basically, I'm just saying this here in a realistic manner. When you have a good group of friends and you have the money to afford it, if you don't have the 5 hours to invest in the game every day and you only have an hour, you want to play with 5 friends, you know what? Here's it. I'll pull out $100 from my wallet. There's it into the game. I'm in. And that is what they would do. They'd give this big pay to win aspect into it again, and only to basically get you up to a certain point, and everything else supports everybody in the game. And that would have been a very big balance to the game. Everything would start to go well. The insurance system was something fantastic that they added. It was needed way earlier, but they didn't add it because they had a whole lot of ideas behind it and how they can keep the game churning and how they can get players to spend. And then they couldn't get the spend that they wanted, so they introduced more money grabbing activities, and that's exactly what it was. Then came that event where they locked it behind a paywall. Now, the reason why I say locked behind a paywall was they put too much of the emphasis on Plex earning into it. And the AUR for certain achievements to be unlocked instantly was absolutely uncalled for. Eve is a hardcore game. And if they wanted to remain hardcore, they should keep it hardcore. If they wanted it to be friendly, they should have opened that friendly aspect right in the start. They should have made it pay to win and friendly, and they should have minimized the impact of PvP. PvP games are very hard to handle because you need to have people policing everything when it comes to PvP. PvP has politics, has inflammatory statements from people from time to time. People get angry. Remember, you purposefully hurting each other in a non-physical way, so your words are going to be very, very rude and vile and violent. People are cruel. People are looking to show off and boast, and they'll kill a stationary ship, or they'll kill an armada of ships with a dirty trick, or they'll play every glitch they can. And that is what people do in PvP. People manipulate everything to their advantage. And sometimes you manipulate the rules of the game to your advantage as well. And it allows you to take a very big step forward without having to have to take on the risks that are included with the game. And this is what happened throughout Eve. And that is the Eve story from the dev side. Moving forward, the things which happened were the corps. Corps, as I said, are fantastic places for people to gather. People become friends, people get to do things, they have a lot of fun. But here is the negative. We had groups like Genesis. They were fun places because people could sit in there, you could talk, you could rap, you could do whatever you wanted, and you had fun. That is the key point to a game, to have fun. Then came the wars, and the wars were fun in the start. You know what? 1 hour worth of fighting, fantastic. 2, 3 hours, yeah, you know what? It's okay. One weekend worth of a full day of fighting, okay, right? You know, that's a little bit of a push, but it's fine. But then things got severely out of hand. 4 hour mission, 4 hour racking quests every day, twice a day. It happened every day that you get 4 hours where you're going out on these massive missions to rat an enemy to push them out of a region. Then it became twice every day because they're trying to pull onto 2 times. And if you're online, you have to attend. That's when things got heavy. That's Genesis. That's Silent. That's every co-op that tries to become big with PvP ends up pushing on their players in this way. And they end up hurting the free-to-play players. You know what? Players from Silent have complained about it. You've heard about it from other channels already. The big wigs get massive amounts of ISK. They're pulling ISK out of everywhere from whatever everybody is earning. And they don't ret. They don't fight in the 1v1s. They just sit back and they earn ISK from the corp. And the corp has billions in there. And they just build themselves faction ships. It's not an easy task. You can ask anybody who works for what they earn. You go out and you do a Dead Space. You come out with 500 million. You split it 3 ways. 500 million 3 ways. There you go. Everybody is happy. But then you also get the negative to it. You go out, you do a Dead Space. Nobody's getting the money from it. Why? Because they don't want to split it with you. And then they had their own internal structures to make things seem more fair. And when they're selling it on the market, they're selling it for premium and they're giving you minimum spec wage. So basically, they're making an additional 250 million for the corp, and you are making 250 million. So they're taking half of the earning for themselves, and they didn't put in any effort to it. They have one guy who's just running to and from to the markets. They have the transport up and down for him all catered. They have people doing the whole chaperone of the transport vessel down. And that's what they were doing. They were transporting like that every single time. massive transport blockade, they just go around it. They run the Atrons. They run all of these small ships that can't be stopped. And you can do 5 or 6 trips like that, and nobody's going to stop your ship. Nothing is going to get in your way. Everybody is defending you. The paths are cleared. Everybody is scouting the gates for you. You don't have anything to fear. You don't have anything to worry about. You're jumping through like there's nothing in your way. You're making money. And it's not for you, it's for the corp. And the corp is getting rich. Then you go and you have a 5 hour op and you have them twice a day. That's 10 hours. You have to play 10 hours for the corp, plus you have to put in another 5 hours to pull out what you need for yourself so that you can keep growing, so that you can keep getting your ships. And there you go, there's your 250 million, and they earning 250 million as well. But you're the one who's doing all the earning, they not. And you've got tons of guys, they running around, they spending hours and hours on ratting, they learning all the patterns, they refining every material. They trying to pull out every bit of this that they can. And you get these guys on the side who are in charge of leadership. Hey, you know what? We're having a tournament this weekend. We're giving away faction frigates. Okay, that's a nice 300 million ship. Well done. Congratulations. How did you get that money? Oh no, we just had a little bit of extra in the vaults. We had someone give it to us. Okay, right. How did they give it to you? Oh no, it's the excess from what was put aside from a rat. We paid for it from within the corpse fees, and we kept it for ourselves, and we built it up so we're going to have a tournament. It's going to generate more players for us, so we can have more good stuff in the end. What are the good stuff? We've got a ton of Capsulia outposts for the commanders. What about the regular players? No, they don't need to give regular players command capsules, Capsulia outposts. Sorry, they just need to keep running with the basic ships. And basic ships were improving, but you never got the very best. You got a basic idea, and the cost on it was crazy high. For example, when I joined Silent and I said that I won't fly anything crappy, I said that I'd only fly a Naga because I know there is a good ship because I have one down in ISEC. And the figure they wanted to charge was 25% higher than the Jita retail price. Now, if you think about that, 25% higher than Jita's prices, and that's internally within the corp. And when you rat, they making the money that way, and they're making money off you. So basically, the more people who joined the corp and bought through the corp, the heavier the sum got. And then within the corp, I found 1 or 2 guys were selling a lot cheaper than the corp, and that was where I was really buying things from. And it wasn't worthwhile to buy through the corp because the corp was unbelievably expensive and you didn't want to donate to the corp. And when you had corp credit, it didn't work out for you. You could ask to claim it as ISK in the end, and that was just about it. And as I said, that those are some of the problems within the big corps. And basically, this is an entire rundown on Eve, right? So you do know that there's content coming out from my channel, all of this. And let's get into the next big thing, the alteration of modules. Now, modules have been around in the game since the start of the game. Everybody was after those C-type modules. Now there's the opportunity to reverse engineer B-type modules. It's finally here. That was supposed to be here back in December. That was supposed to be the second period of the game. As I said, you need to make sure that your periods were balanced and you needed to have enough coming in. They pushed some items for the sake of making the game hype. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's stop right there. So, right, when it comes to this section, this is where things are a bit more nitty-gritty, right? So the corps were pushing to the max. They were stealing from their players. It happens with all the corps. Every corp is doing this. Every corp is guilty of it. And when you think of some of these, this is some of the funny things, right? I know for a fact that there was this team of 40 players, right? We'd go out every night in a team of 10, and we'd rat for, let's see, if we started at 6 o'clock in the afternoon my time, we'd stop at 4 a.m. in the morning my time. So you get the idea. That's not a small amount of ratting. That's 6 plus 4, that's 10 hours a day that we'd rat for. And if a dead space spawned, the team was holding spaces for 20 other players, right? So we were stretched across this nice region of space. We were knocking out T10s and T9s all the time. We were reducing things, and the moment a dead space spawns in that same region where we're farming, this team is there, and bam, you no longer have the opportunity to do what you were doing. They've got control over the region. No, we were supposed to be farming here. We already said that we booked the space. There was no one in here when it spawned. We had two guys in there. We said they were farming. They even stated that they're farming. Why are you doing this? Because it's this way. And the fight would go on, and you'd end up being the bad guy for claiming what you've been working towards. And these things persisted with some of the leadership. You get it within each of the corps. And they really caused problems, and they caused the exodus of many players from the bigger corps. And when people lost their earning from dead spaces, because this isn't a joke, dead spaces were a massive earning for players. Example, me 10 million and 20 million a week when they reduced the spawn rate of dead spaces, that 10 to 20, sorry, not 20 million, 10 to 20 billion a week. The 10 to 20 billion turned into 100 million. And if you had a really, really bad week, it turned into 50 million for the week, or 30 million for the week, and that was it, because you just farmed these low level missions with bounties that were insignificantly small. They were taking too long to clear. The time went up from 5 minutes to clear a T9 to a full hour. You couldn't take in low level ships like a cruiser. You had to take in big ships. Okay, one moment. I'll be back now. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so we're getting back to a lot of things that are going to go to the last part of things when it comes to what's happening in the game. Now, I know that I haven't been very clear and I might have lost the plot by now of where I was, but let's say exactly what's happening. So the game is in its final part when it's going to actually have its major death of players. And when I say the major death of players, I mean we have the last few hundred, and you always have these players who are diehard to a game. They become devout and they play it no matter how bad it gets. So they're going to be the ones who are supporting the game, and they're going to hold up the server for who knows how long. And however many of them remain, from a million, there might be 1% of that million, and that is quite a bit of players. If you're counting it, that will mean about, let's see, 10,000 players are going to remain here and actually play the game because they're the devout players of the game. They're there for the game, not for the company, not for anything else. They're just there for the game. So those 10,000 will remain on the game. You'll see them from different corps, from different coalitions, and they're going to be the guys who stay around. They're going to know more about this game than anybody else. Now, I did say that before. I have quit Eve, and I've quit Eve again a second time, basically, with the majority of the content that I stopped. Because even though I log in every 10 to 12 days, or I struggle to log in for a full week, I'm still playing the game. But that's the thing, I ended up getting a second load of problems, and there is a 2 week gap between when I played and when I started trying to log in again. And I go through these problems. You have to wait for the right updates to hit, and once they hit, then you can get back on easy. And even if you get back on, it's lag like crazy, and you get it. It's a whole lot of problems. I don't like going through it. I knew my Omega was expiring. Tried to get on every single day when it was expiring, just couldn't get back in because you don't want to lose that Omega because there's so many rewards that comes with Omega. Now T10 opens in 3 days, which is a big no. It shouldn't have opened in 3 days' time, and that's for the leaders of the pack. So when T10 should have opened was around July the 15th, right? So if it was July the 15th and they were saying that T10 opened, that means that the amount of SP was perfect. But we a little bit over the limit, and it really makes a big difference. My 1 year of content is going to come up as soon as the game hits its 1 year, and it's going to be a celebration for me because I actually intend to have all those videos launching by that date. And it's not a small amount. Let me give you a hint. Every last ship, every last class of vessel is going to have a little build made on them. They're going to be the PvE format, no PvP format building. Everything will be for its maximum production, maximum usage from my point of view. Some of the ships I am not a master with, and some of the ships have been reworked slightly. I am not changing it to the rework. Basically, it's whatever I can assume or whatever I can calculate to the best of my ability, and that's what you're getting. And that will be Elementary's best. And that is the end of Elementary 72 Gaming's main EVE content. They might release a ton of other ships, and every ship is going to be counted, even those which haven't been launched. So you're going to get the Zhenyu, you're going to get the Zhen Zhao. I think they have launched right now. You're going to get the Horus, you're going to get the Belagast. I'm forgetting what's the name of that one in between. I'm forgetting the name of that faction. Obviously, I'll get to it. I've been doing so much of work on trying to figure out what to put on where, what would suit them, where they suited, how you use them, when to play them. Basically, it's all that I have to think of. And every single ship has those particular routes and routines. And these are only for PvE. So every ship for PvE, where to play them in PvE, makes a big difference, to be honest. And I'm hoping that it plays to our advantage when it comes to what's coming out next. And once everything is done, I hope that it's a very good farewell to a year of ups and downs, because that is the end of Eve for me. And following the end of Eve will be the start of the new games which I find. Because as I said, I've been searching for Android games and nothing has come. The game that I was counting on launching this year didn't launch. Diablo Immortal was supposed to take over from Eve for me and become the main content of the channel. Instead, I ended up going all the way to PC games, which I never intended to do at this point. I intended to only start PC games maybe in another year, possibly 2 years. And this is way too soon for me. So the PC gaming was pushed on me because I really tried to keep up with giving y'all something to watch, and it ended up being negative, and there ended up being problems, and you have seen how bad things got with my content at that point. I haven't completed much graphic design. I haven't done much more besides this year. This was actually done in CAD a few years ago. It's actually a 3D model, and this is just a still image of the 3D model from a front point of view. So those are the things that I've done, and I hope that the series is a good farewell to the game for a lot of you guys, because I still will be playing, but it won't be content, because I've done it before. I've done exactly what people have complained that I don't do. I don't go out and play. I'm only sitting inside the market, and I received the exact complaint that I thought I would. I'm not talking well enough. I'm wasting too much of time. I should just sit in the market and do it. And that's exactly what I received. And I said it is very difficult to play out in the open and make a video, because there's so much going on in your head, because you have to think about every little move. So yeah, you're going to get those format videos. You're not going to get test videos. If you want to test them, you can test them. They're theoretical builds, and they will have a whole lot of disclaimers on what you have to think about when you build them. You also have to think about how you play. That's always something that I always mention. Your play style makes a difference to the build that you're playing. Example, if you're too aggressive and you're playing a defensive build, you are taking too much of a risk with your defensive build when your defensive build needs to be pulled back. You charging in too much, you need to have been staying back. You need them to charge at you because you have the defensive point. If you can keep them charging at you where you pulling yourself back further and further, reducing their damage to you and them taking more damage from yourself, you win. Because when you launch to them and you're moving away and they're moving towards you, they take a greater deal of damage from your weapons. It happens with every weapon: lasers, missiles, railguns. I'm missing a class of weapon. Uh, Cannons, yeah. All of them do the exact same thing. The further out you are, the more reduced the damage is. And when you cause a person to pull like that too much and push into it, they end up taking more damage because they get closer to the point where the the weapon is fired, and they end up in a straight line, because you can't orbit somebody at super high speeds you have to start doing the straight line. Otherwise, they just gain room on you like crazy till they're outside of your target area. And then the defensive team always wins regardless with that method as well, because you waste too much of time and they have a chance to get reinforcements. So all of those things are taken into consideration for any build. Basically, I'm saying you must think of how you play. If you're a super aggressive person, obviously you're looking for weapons that have these massive ranges. They can do unbelievable damage. They've got good target locking. You don't have fall off within the inner regions because you're aggressive, and that will give you your short beams or the pulse beams. I'm not sure which one it is. I always get confused with it. Example, it's a torpedo players. You're going to stay that close to an enemy. You're going to play locking methods. Your weapons are all going to be about over revving and overpowering them, making them maximum velocity, maximum power. That is what you're going to have. You're not focusing on defense. You're not focusing on pulling up your defense all of a sudden. Those are things you have to think about when it comes to my builds, because my builds are only built for PvE standard players. They're not built for the super defensive. They're not built for the super assault. I will mention the super assault and the super defense, but they're just an option that you can do, but you have to think about moving things around in each one. So I hope that you all do enjoy when that series drops. I'm expecting this video to have launched on July the 11th. So July the 11th is when it should start, and it should end somewhere near January the 31st, or maybe even in February, because there's a lot of ships to go through if I'm going one ship at a time. I'm not going to double, I'm not going to triple, just every single ship on its own, and there's a lot of ships to go through. Think about it, there's so many frigates. I think there's over 60 frigates, over 60 cruisers. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are going to come out. I hope that you all do enjoy. And this is the start of the end of Eve for the content variation over here for the main content. If you do see me pop up a little video having some fun with this, having some fun with that, missions are back, or new protection, or an update video every once in a while, that's because I got back into the game and I find things are going right. So catch you all then. Have a good day.